We'll go ahead and start with our introductions here and get us rolling into the presentation and make the best use of our time in a beautiful Saturday morning so that everyone can get out and enjoy some of the sun. So thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Walter, for being our guest. We appreciate that Mike Buchanan is here as one of our alumni from Great American, and we'll get some time to talk to him. And thank you to Heinrich Stander for joining us as well. Heinrich is one of our instructors in the Bootcamp and is the owner of Rocket Fueled Futures, which focuses on career and leadership training with a focus in IT. So we'll get some time to talk to Heinrich. And let me go ahead and introduce the Max team in our Brady Bunch window of virtual people. Denise Bartik is the owner of Max, and she's waving. Say hello to Denise. Hi, Denise.
Good morning.
We also have Annette Ballard, our career services advisor. Hi, Annette.
Good morning.
Greg Doud is one of our senior instructors. Hi, Greg. How are you today? And then also, Walter, you've probably met Kevin Newkirk, our Bootcamp success specialist. What's going on, Kevin? No birds in your hair, luckily. We're going to try and keep all foul out of our presentation today, if possible. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and welcome, Walter, to our Bootcamp Breakdown. We really want to utilize your time today to give you access to our team to ask any questions that you may have about a coding bootcamp. And I'm going to shoot some information at you. And so any questions that you have, if you want to throw them into the chat as you go along, or we'll have some question and answer time that you'll be able to direct your questions at Annette or Heinrich or Greg. So feel free to engage with our guests, take notes as you go along. And hopefully this morning serves as some momentum towards a career path. And we'll try and give you some information today about why Max is different, how to select a bootcamp, which bootcamp is right for you. We've got a few options. And we're also going to talk about what a maximum bootcamp is. That's something new to our product lineup, and we're super excited about that. And so we'll talk a little bit more. But first of all, Max has been around since 1998, mostly in the corporate IT training world. And that's really where the boot camps came from, was the need of our corporate partners who required accelerated learning for their valued team members. And Denise recognized this opportunity for really anyone who found an interest in IT or coding. And our bootcamp has been around since 2012, and we've graduated more than 200 plus alumni that are all over Cincinnati and the United States in various levels of coding and software development. And we actually feature 4 career bootcamps, and we'll talk about the different bootcamps that we have as an option. But really, first, we want to help people select the right bootcamp. I've been in the bootcamp success specialist role, and I've sat down with career seekers to talk about what matters in their life and how to make a great decision. This is a life-changing decision. And so when you think about the bootcamp, we want to look at how it's going to change your lifestyle, the hours that are going to be required, the kind of work that you've got to put in. We also want to look at your learning style. You know, are you somebody that wants to be fully immersed every day of the week, Monday through Friday? Or do you want a little bit of breathing room in between your sessions to be able to consume the information? A big aspect of, I'm going to pause for just 1 second. We did have somebody just jump on, so I'm going to hold just real quick and I'll just kind of recap. So thank you for joining us. We do have an additional guest. We're only a couple slides into the presentation, and right now we're talking about what we hope that you get out of our bootcamp breakdown today, and that is how to select the right bootcamp for you. You'll be introduced to all of our guests throughout the presentation as we continue to move forward. But we had just picked up on, you know, how a bootcamp can affect your family. Again, this goes back to the hours. This goes back to the work that's required. Some people have family obligations, and we'll talk about how to select a boot camp that can really fit with your family, your learning style, your lifestyle, also your personal goals, where you're trying to go, your career goals. What do you want out of your profession? We spend a lot of time at work when you think about it. What do you want to do with that time, and what do you want that time to mean to you? Is it a job? Is it a career? Is it a passion? And what kind of technology are you interested in? There's a lot of different avenues that you can choose, and our team is going to help you figure out which one is the best fit for you. One of the things that you have to have in any kind of training is they have to be invested in you as a person. And you can see, based on all of the Max team members here today and at all of our bootcamp breakdowns, we are always invested from day one. And I think that's something that does make Max unique. And a part of being invested is the team that really surrounds you from day one all the way through the bootcamp. And it starts with Kevin as the bootcamp success specialist, as he informs you and helps guide you to the right bootcamp and shares all of the information that you're going to need. And then your transition to Kim, who helps you with forms, really welcomes you into the program. And Kim is absolutely fantastic, and you'll get to meet her. And everybody gets some time with Denise because she walks around and gets to know all of the students. She wants to know where you're coming from, where you want to go. And she's always going to be a resource for you. So it's just a part of the Max family that you become a part of as well. And then you'll get introduced to Sean and Greg, your senior instructors that are going to provide you with the training throughout the boot camp, along with this excellent team of subject matter experts. You'll work with Annette on all of our career services and getting ready for the job hunt. We'll bring in Kendra Ramirez, an expert on personal branding and LinkedIn, Kelsey Apple for Scrum, or Agile training. And then we've got Heinrich to talk about emotional intelligence and your soft skills and really owning the room when it comes to an interview and being able to master that conversation. So there's a lot that goes in to your training throughout this boot camp, and it's more than the technology. One of the things I mentioned earlier that we're really excited about is the addition of our Maximum Boot Camp, which is coming up and starting in May. This is definitely a change in our lineup that is worth highlighting, and we'll talk about some of the details of the boot camp in a moment. But our Maximum Coding Boot Camp is coming up this May, and it's going to be a combination of Java and .NET. And so when we talk about our boot camps, we have two different options for you to consider. Our Maximum Boot Camp is 13 weeks. It's a combination of Java and .NET. And so you're going to be equally trained and become a multi-language developer in the core technologies that run applications today that every business relies on. That is a fully immersive Monday through Friday accelerated full stack boot camp. And what you're looking at in this slide is, what's a week going to be like for you? What are those hours like? And in the full-time Maximum Boot Camp, you can see the amount of course time you're going to have each week, the amount of study time that you're going to have each week. We also have a part-time option. And if you need to keep your job, if you have family obligations, this is a lifestyle fitting boot camp that is a Monday, Wednesday evening for 3.5 hours, and then an all day Saturday. So as it says on the slide, it is literally a handful of evenings and a collection of Saturdays over 25 weeks. So about 6 months. Look at the hours difference though. Look at the course time. Look at the study working course time. There's a lot more breathing room in the part-time boot camp. But there's also another major difference. The part-time bootcamp right now focuses on Java as the core competency language, whereas the maximum bootcamp starting in May is going to bring the combination of Java and .NET, which is going to be unique. And we'll talk to Greg, our senior instructor, about that change in the technology in just a moment. But there's also a price difference. The maximum bootcamp is $15,500. The part-time bootcamp is $14,000. The addition of the added training in the secondary language required us to increase the number of weeks in our traditional bootcamp. And it also brought up the cost a little bit. But our next part-time bootcamp that's coming up this summer is still going to be $14,000, and it won't have the equal training in both languages. So, Greg, can you talk to us a little bit about the technology? We've had some adaptable changes that we've made to the bootcamp, and the maximum bootcamp is something that's very new to the lineup. Can you talk to us about the technology that's in the bootcamp and give us a little bit about your background and tell us what changes have happened and how maximum came to be?
Well, my background is that I've been a lifelong developer up until the last about 5 years when I became an instructor. I've always liked software development, but teaching is actually a little more gratifying when you see people who want to make this their new career and are so committed to doing so. It's a very worthwhile thing that I enjoy quite a bit as far as helping people get there. The curriculum in the maximum bootcamp has everything in it that the previous boot camps had in it, but the addition is that we teach both Java and the C# language. And we do that because there are a number of companies who have jobs, and a lot of the big companies in town, Cincinnati, and in the area, many of those have both applications in C# and Java. Now, the languages are very similar, so there's really not a lot of difference. There's a little bit with the tools, but companies usually want developers who know one or both of those languages to handle and maintain the applications. So in previous ones, we had a class of just Java and a class of just C#. We said that once someone knows one of those two languages, says we can teach them the other language in about less than half the time, because they know the hardest part about learning a computer language, and that's the concepts and how to do it. How to do it in a particular language is syntax, and most people can just look that up. So even though both those languages typically take about 4 weeks every day to learn and be really a capable developer, once you know one of those, the other one we can do that in just a few days, because the languages are so simple, and we can just talk about what the differences are. I'll give you an example. There's a student in our that's taking Java right now, and based on where he'd like to get a job, place he worked, it was TQL. He left TQL. He'd like to go back, and there are a .NET shop, so C#. So he asked me if I could help him learn C# while he's learning Java. And at the end of my class yesterday with my C# students, I sat down with him, and in about an hour, he had the foundations of the entire backend capstone project up and running. I had a lot more work to do, but because he knew the concepts already, all I had to do was tell him what some of the differences were in the syntax. So I'm very confident that with the extra couple of weeks we added to it, that students will come out with this foundational knowledge in both C# and Java, so they'll be able to handle just about anything that their employer will ask them to do. The other items in this slide here are the things that are in both of our individual language boot camps. source control, which is the tool that developers use to make sure they keep track of all versions of their software code. That's a precious resource because you can't maintain your programs and enhance them if you don't have all the source code. Database, we do SQL databases, which almost every application you'll do as a developer, and we'll have a SQL database in it. So we want the developers to know how to use that as a developer, and our students are proficient in SQL databases when they're done. The MVC design part is a list of foundational technologies that are some of their tools in there, but they're also ways to create applications. And these applications that we teach are the state of the art in that they are web applications. They're what we call loosely coupled. So the browser can be anywhere in the world and the server can be any other place in the world and it will work. Whether that's across the room or across the world, they'll work. And that's what a lot of companies want to build. So, and we use the most up-to-date frameworks like Spring. We make RESTful applications. This is what they're building today. That's really cutting edge stuff. And really all of these applications are web-based because that is just so common. It's the vast majority of applications that all students will build probably for most of their foreseeable career will all be web projects and stuff. So we focus on that. And then in addition to the technology aspects of this, and which there's quite a few, there's about a dozen different technologies. Each you could find about a 2 or 3 inch book in the bookstore library for. In addition to that, we also talk about life as a developer, and we talk about the project management that is used in a lot of development projects. And so students get 2 full days of what they call Scrum, which is an agile mechanism to manage development processes. And so they know what that is. And our employers say they really like the fact that our students got focused for 2 full days on the project management strategies that many companies use there. And along that, both of us, Sean and I, with the years of experience, we augment what Annette's going to talk about in that we tell students what a day in the life of a developer looks like, what issues they run across, what good days look like and what not so good days look like, and what you can expect to experience as a professional software developer. And so we think that augments what Annette's going to talk about in a career. And we think that gives the students a very good foundational knowledge of software development that they can go out and step in as an entry-level developer in just about any development team that we know of. So, and with that, I'll take questions or turn it back over to Dustin.
Perfect, Greg. Thank you very much. Did anybody have any questions for Greg?
I wanted to check on something. Framework. So see you have Spring in there. Is that in relation to like Spring Boot for Selenium or things like that?
Yeah, it's exactly. We do Spring Boot when we do our capstone backend projects in Java.
And Spring Boot, if my understanding correctly, is a set of pre-configs for your IDE environment in Maven and Eclipse to go ahead and use with that. Is that correct?
It is correct, yeah. So we use a Spring Tool Suite, which configures Eclipse with all those, so we don't spend days getting Maven configured and stuff like that. So we start you so you can get right into writing your capstone program, writing your coding that you do for your controllers, your models, your repositories, right? So
I get tripped up with the frame. Like when I hear frameworks, it's one of those buzzwords. Depending on who you're talking to in the audience, that shifts so much.
sure. But what we say about the frameworks is a framework is a set of pre-written code that allows you more quickly to create applications as long as you follow the framework rules. And what I usually relate it to is the outlet plugs in your walls, right? If you want electricity, all you have to do is have a plug that fits in there, and you don't have to worry about what's happening behind the scenes. You'll get electricity if you plug it in. Now, if you want your own plug with 5 prongs or something like that, you have to wire all that up yourself. But if you follow the framework, you know, the 2 or 3 prong plug, you can just plug it in and not have to worry what's behind the scenes.
And in this course, in this boot camp, will we also discuss concept of continuous integration, continuous development, and how that, you know, the philosophy of it, the definition of it, and then the actual ways of applicably executing?
We do talk, sorry, we do talk about continuous integration, continuous deployment. We don't typically have a lot of time to do it. And you're not going to be spending a lot of time modifying existing work. A lot of what you're going to be doing is setting up and creating brand new projects that do different things. But we do talk about CI and CD, so and what they are. Because we're using 2 different developments, the CI and CD for the .NET technologies and the one for Java are a little bit different. So again, we're sometimes limited, even though 13 weeks seems like a long time, we still can't cover all the topics at a deep level, right? So you'll have plenty to learn when you come out of the boot camp still.
And are there artifacts? Because I'm sure, of course, we don't get like a textbook, but I'm assuming there will be sets of slides or handouts we'll have for note taking and refreshing. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we wrote most of our own curriculum. We do augment it with a few things. And right now, it's hard to picture this, but that curriculum is about, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches thick, slides mostly. So you'll get those and you'll be able to add your notes to those slides. So that's yours to keep forever. And we encourage students to take lots of notes that make sense to them, because our slides are not a self-tutorial, right? They represent artifacts that are used to demonstrate during our lectures and stuff like that.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Great, great questions, Walter. Thank you very much, Greg. That was awesome. I love to hear the one-on-one exchange, and I appreciate that Walter engaged with you know, a member of our team. It's nice to see the activity. So now that we've talked about the technology and really thrown some terms at you that we don't expect for you to understand right now, it is for your evaluation when you're considering the boot camp that you would like to take. But we also need to talk about the experience, and that's why we invite our alumni to join us, because the boot camp experience is very unique. Our experience is unique because, as you can see from talking to Greg, it's about the access to our experts. It's the way that we transfer our knowledge to you and what that relationship is like. It's about having field relevant projects and labs and your capstone. Our bootcamp is absolutely career focused. At the end of the day, it's about the return on your investment and your future as an IT professional. It's also including the demo day, and I'll ask Mike, you know, some questions about that. And it's about being a part of the Max family. And Mike, you came out of the bootcamp, what, just, you know, a little over a year ago or so, or?
I was actually summer of 2018, so
that's right, 2018.
It seems like it's been a year ago, but it's been almost 3 at this point when I started. So
I'm not counting 2020; it just didn't happen.
yeah. The last year feels like 10, so 10 years ago.
So what was your bootcamp experience like? You know, if you could share something, maybe if you could write a note and leave it at the seat for the next person coming into the bootcamp, what was your experience like, and what could you share?
Yeah. I put some notes down, just kind of like before, during, and after, like the boot camp, right? Like those are kind of the 3 phases that you're going to go through if you choose to go this route. You know, I was always like programmer as kind of like a hobby. I had a little bit of it in college, but not enough to really make it a career. And I didn't really think it was feasible to switch careers. I was in my mid 30s. And then I heard about these coding boot camps from my father-in-law, and you know how the internet is, you start going down these rabbit holes. And I was like, okay, well, is this feasible? You know, can I do this? And my next step was to research job placement rates, which were extremely high. Like there's a really, really, really great need for good developers right now, especially in Cincinnati. And I looked at both the boot camps in town. At the time, there was 2. I don't know how many there are now. Max won out, like, head and shoulders above the other one. They've been around in Cincinnati for a very long time, at least as far as technical, type places go. And they're also really, really respected. They're highly respected among the Cincinnati developer community. I've never heard anyone say a bad word about the company. As a matter of fact, most of the time people are, gushing about how much they learn when they take these classes, or really any of their other curriculum as well. They don't just do boot camps. So after making my decision, I went to the boot camp in the summer of 18. I was with Greg. I think it was only Greg, and then we had somebody come in for our scrum named Chuck Suschek or Suschek. I can't remember how to say his last name, but I chose it because I thought it was kind of C# was kind of an edge up on the competition. Kids coming out of college at the time were just taught Java, so if you have C#, you kind of have a little edge over people that are coming out of college, which I thought was important. And it did kind of give me a leg up during the job hunt, because you can say, I took the C# and you're really focused on that. They're both very similar, like Greg was saying. C# and Java, there's not a whole lot of difference. And honestly, since then, I've kind of had to program a little bit in both at Great American. During the camp, they're going to throw a lot at you, but they are going to give you like the kind of foundational tools that you're going to need. I think I saw the slide earlier said something about like drinking from a fire hose, and that's 100% correct. You're going to get a lot of information. It's structured, really, really well structured, and the way they teach it is focused, and you're going to learn it. I mean, if you put the effort in, you're going to learn it. You're going to have the tools you need when you get out to get the job. And then during the latter phase of the camp, they're going to prep you to pass a developer interview, and that's one of the most important parts of the class. I know by the end, you're kind of like, you feel like you're over the hump, you're getting ready for demo day, and you're going to, but that to me was one of the most important things. I still reference the notes from the day Greg went over, like basically just the object-oriented principles, things like that. And I've been asked those questions many times in interviews. So it's really important to take good notes, like Greg was saying, but most importantly on the day when they're telling you, what to know for the interviews. After the boot camp, I had a job within about a month at a place called Health Carousel. They've hired a fair number of boot campers out of there. Actually, my manager there while I was working there was an early boot camper from Max. I stayed there a little over a year. It was a great place to work. I ended up leaving there to go to Great American alongside a coworker of mine. That was just a bigger company, more opportunity. So both places have been terrific. I really enjoyed, the career switch. I actually enjoy my job now versus the old one I wasn't too fond of. So, and then just kind of in closing, I'd say if you're going to go this route, and they'll tell you this before and after the boot camp, it's like, you never stop learning. Technology is always changing. So you've kind of have the lifelong learner mentality where you're always learning new things, which, I enjoy that. I always like the challenge of continually learning. And also, if you're willing to do that, there's a lot of good money in town here, especially for good developers. They're always in demand. I have recruiters calling me and contacting me all the time. So yeah, the demand is still there. There's a lot of people that need good developers in town. So, but I think that's pretty much the gambit of everything as far as like my experience has been. I have no regrets, looking back, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. So.
Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate you sharing, and I would like to come back to you if you can stay with us past 10:45. I'm going to try and wind down our presentation, but I'm always interested to understand the importance of company culture for somebody coming out of a boot camp and how it has to help guide. But let me go ahead and run through these slides and make sure that we get through all of our information, and I'll come back to you towards the end if that's okay. Awesome. Annette, you're next on deck because it's not just about the technology. And Mike mentioned being able to crush the interview. And we are actually lucky to have both yourself and Heinrich here today. I have, I know Heinrich's background pretty well, and I think that his topic is so interesting. But talk to us about the strengths and our career services, and it's really a holistic approach. So give us a little bit of your experience and talk to us about how we're going to get them ready to absolutely crush the interview.
Absolutely. Thank you for the introduction. My role has been since 1999 helping people in career transitions. So these are always been folks, I'm going to say 95% of people who are looking to change fields. So that's really my niche, is just helping people through that process. And the rest of the staff knows that I really wanted to be a nurse. 2 years of Latin in high school, 4 or 5 years as a candy striper, can't do body fluids. And this is really my way of really making a difference in someone's life. Got an email after 8 o'clock last evening that one of our students got a job offer yesterday. And so doing the happy dance. But we really do look at starting with the Gallup strengths, and we help individuals to understand what is that unique contribution that they can bring to the table. So it's not just telling a potential employer what they want to hear, but it's authentic words that you can use, not blowing smoke, but just being able to articulate the value and the contribution that you bring to the organization. When we marry that to your previous work experience, when we stir in your Gallup strengths, we actually then also create a brand for you. And we do that through out the resume, the cover letter. We work together on positioning information also on your LinkedIn profile. We have Kendra Ramirez come and do a LinkedIn workshop for us, and she helps lay that foundation. I've had students just recently not even submit an application, but individual reach out to them just because they found them on LinkedIn. So we help you get those keywords right and get you looking good, both on paper and on LinkedIn. I'll let Heinrich speak to what he brings to the table as it relates to EQ. Sorry to steal your thunder, but literally employers tell me probably weekly, Annette, I'm hiring for EQ. We can train people to become a developer. We can't train on EQ so much. So it's really important. We teach on interviewing. We do mock interviews. We have Greg and Sean work with us on the technical interview prep. I can't do that part. I mean, I can ask you the questions, but I have no idea if you're right or wrong. I don't need to know all of that, but I do need my expertise is in the interview process. I help you with verbiage, crafting responses. We stay with you after graduation and help you towards your employment goals with group coaching, and in lifetime, we can share student experiences and help you get to your employment goal. So that's the short and sassy version. There you go.
Thank you, Annette. And Heinrich, you're up next, and I love your topic, just as Annette has mentioned. And you come into the boot camp talking about emotional intelligence and soft skills. That's not where IT has been focused for the last 20 or so years. Talk to us about why it's different, and give us a little bit of an introduction for yourself, please.
Yeah, thanks, Dustin. So you can hear me okay?
Yep, everything's good.
All right. Yeah, so I'm kind of here today kind of representing two sides of the equation here. One, yes, I do the EQ stuff, but I'm also kind of, I was a working for Kroger for 21 years before I started my journey as a career coach. And so I have a lot of experience in, hiring individuals from Max and from other areas. So I can give you a little bit of just a view into the employer's side of things. And the two really kind of mix really well. And that's why I do what I do, because when I was, in corporate America working for Kroger, and we were hiring people, when I was hiring, very much like Annette said, I was looking at two sides of the coin. I was looking at the technical expertise. Yes, I mean those are table stakes. You got to know what you're doing. You got to be well trained, and so from my perspective, anyone I hired that I knew went through the Max training, I was a lot less worried than some of the other candidates that I saw, because the training, like everybody else says, it's high quality training, and it's not a bunch of theoretical book knowledge that no one can apply. When you get through the training with Max, you know what you're doing. You've had practical experience. You can hit the ground running. And so when I'm interviewing for somebody, or I'm interviewing somebody that came from Max, from a technical perspective, I was like, okay, all right, cool. They know what they're doing. So I focused a lot of attention then on the soft skills, on the emotional intelligence, on how they're going to fit in the culture. Are they going to be a good team player? Are they going to be somebody who's diplomatic and has good interpersonal skills, and knows how to be part of a team, how to manage change, how to drive change. There's mountains of soft skills things, and Annette alluded to that as well. You can train on the technical, but it's much more difficult to train on the non-technical side. So my company that I created after Kroger is called Rocket Fueled Futures. And I specialize on working especially with IT people or engineers, or highly technical people, to work on the other side of the house, on the soft skills, the interpersonal, emotional, and social interactions, so that when and by the way, kudos to Denise for recognizing that, hey, we need both sides. We need well-rounded individuals. And providing this service to you guys, so you when you get to the workplace, that you can be as successful as you can be with both technical and non-technical skills. So yeah, I do the training for emotional intelligence, and just practical applications for that, like where do you apply this in the workplace or even at home. We talk about emotional intelligence in the interview process, which is really important, because that's where again, if I put my employer hat on, when I'm interviewing somebody, I am judging for those skills. I am looking to see how well you connect with me as interviewer, how well you handle your emotions and manage your stress and nerves and those kind of things, and how you answer the questions. And so we go into detail. I kind of have a mock interview video, and you go through that, and you pick up the good and the bad emotional intelligence cues. So it's a little bit of practice. Again, the theme of when you're coming out of this with Max, that you're well prepared, well rounded, and practically able to hit the ground running. So just yeah, that's really where I'm coming from. It's been, Max has been a great partnership. When I was working for Kroger, we hired a bunch of people from him. We created some creative team building models, and it's just been an awesome experience. So if you're considering going with them, I could highly recommend them. And yeah, it's a privilege to work with everybody there.
Thank you very much, Heinrich. And really, I think what a lot of change in this area, and what Heinrich has picked up on, is it used to be your relationship was with the keyboard and the monitor. but now this is a team effort, and it's a team sport in there, and you have to be able to work within dynamic relationships and be able to communicate. And some of these situations are going to be high stress. So Heinrich, if you can stick with us for another 14 minutes, then we'll get to some open Q&A, and any of our guests can have some time to ask some questions. But we've talked technology, we've talked about the experience, you've heard from our alumni, you've heard from a lot of the Max team. So what's next? What are the next steps? And Kevin, you're the guide through the process, and I know that you've talked to some people and connected with some of our guests. So what are the next steps? If they're to take this momentum from this morning, how do they continue to move forward?
Yeah, thanks, Dustin. Pretty simple, but very important. There's 3 steps to this. Basically, the first step, we're going to meet. I want to talk with you, get to know your interests. At a personal level, I want to understand your career goals, your learning style. I want to talk through your fears with this. It's a chance for us to really connect and answer all of your questions. And if we both feel like this is a good fit for you, then we'll talk about taking the assessment. The assessment is a logic and reason assessment. It has 20 questions that consist of true, false, multiple choice, and there's other problem solving questions. But we give you 30 minutes to complete it, which is more than enough time. And you must score a 75 to pass. Before the assessment, we'll talk about taking the mini assessment that's on our website. That'll give you a good understanding of what consists of the real assessment, and it will also get you familiar with some of these questions. And then really after that, it's talking financing, having in-depth conversations around financing and talking about the many creative options that are available to you, which we'll get here in a minute when we turn it back over to Dustin. But getting accepted, we approximately have 75 students accepted and graduate our program a year. We're a well-respected program throughout the local IT community. This is an elite boot camp, and we are very selective in the admissions process because each and every one of us truly has a passion for helping people. We want you to succeed, and we want to support you in your journey. However, we understand that not everybody has the aptitude to do this kind of work. So we will try our best to figure that out. If a potential bootcamp prospect doesn't meet the criteria, this is not the end. And we can talk and suggest, different routes and stepping stones to eventually get you there. And then, financing is usually the biggest barrier for people until they realize all the different options are available. They usually become a little bit more comfortable because there are a lot of options out there. And if you don't mind, Dustin, turn it back to you to talk about some of those options.
Absolutely. Don't let financing be the barrier that stops you from pursuing this path. There are a lot of creative financial solutions right now. There are pools of money. There are programs like Apprenti, Ohio Means Jobs, WIOA, IMAP. We've got some courses that, maybe if the full boot camp seems a little intimidating right now and you just kind of want to stick your toes in the water, we've got some courses that can be absolutely covered, any out-of-pocket costs, depending on the qualifications for that specific type of funding. But we accept the GI Bill for veterans. We've got our own Max scholarships. Skills Fund is a third-party loan company that can work with you and has successfully supported bootcamp students and many of our graduates. So I would encourage you to focus on that feeling you have of moving forward and pursuing, this positive opportunity. Talk to Kevin. We'll get together and figure out, okay, what's next? What are these barriers that you perceive might be in your way, and how can our team help you move those and carve this path forward? So really today, I want to encourage you to give the assessment a try. Schedule time with Kevin, get together and just give it a shot and see if you like the type of mental challenges that it throws at you. And you can also jump on our website if you'd like at maxtrain.com and visit our career bootcamps page. You can click on bootcamps right at the top of the website page, and we've got a button right on the top to try a mini assessment. If from home today you just want to try the mini assessment, and it's comparable to the full assessment that you would take on site at Max with Kevin, but you can give that a try today, and you can also see our upcoming bootcamp dates, which we'll take a look at in a moment as well. But you could be one of the first graduates as a multi-language developer in our Maximum Coding Bootcamp. You could be in the first class that comes out fully capable in both Java and .NET. And when I think about this, and you always see in movies and otherwise, whenever people are getting ready for the interview, there's always like 9 people sitting next to each other. And I just imagine sitting in one of those chairs knowing I'm probably the only multi-language one here that has proof in their capstone project that I can actually hands-on do Java and .NET. And that's a really good feeling. And to know that we're empowering our students with that type of competitive edge is awesome. And it kind of gives me chills a little bit, because we know the hard work that our students put in and what it takes. And this is just, it's a really cool change. And I think it could be awesome to be one of the first graduates. Today, we did focus on our coding bootcamp. I will mention we are and have added data analytics and business analyst bootcamps. That information is available on our website, and we do have a data analytics coming up. But our 2 coding boot camps that are coming up in May, we have our Maximum Bootcamp, which is the Java and .NET, and that's the 13-week full-time. And then we've got the part-time, which is Java focused, and that starts in August. And so, if you have any questions, we've got about 7 minutes left, so I will get out of the way as fast as possible. Walter, you had some great questions, and I appreciate all of our guests staying with us, Mike and Heinrich, and I'll say thank you to everybody, and I'll do a final close at the end of the hour. But Walter, it looks like the wheels are spinning, man. What's going on over there? I feel like I can hear the machine working. What do you think about everything that we threw at you this morning?
I don't know if I'm a unique student, in the sense that, like every technical term, I get very well. I'm well versed. I've been in IT for 18 years. I have traditional education. I have a bachelor's in computer science and a master's in information systems. So, but one of the things is, like we know, the paradigm of technology. Every 3 to 4 years, it just and when you're so busy, now that I'm out of the workforce, to come back in, it's about theory versus application. It's like I know C, C++, Java, JavaScript. But if it's been 10 years since I've touched it, I can get a book, especially these days. A lot of things are open source, but I need kind of like that structure and somebody to kind of bounce things off of. It's one thing to know, you can know something, but you know it well when you can teach it or defend it, or just write up something. Here's some projects, do that. So I'm kind of looking to sharpen my skills, and I think that this is one of the best things I have. I guess one of my outstanding questions. Originally, I came in. My specialty is quality assurance, and I lead projects. So a lot of now manual automation is Selenium, HP Runner, Cucumber, and you have to be, they're agnostic. They want you to do it on any system that you're doing it. So one of my questions was, I think I come out of here when I finish this, resharpening and honing those actual coding skills on a granular level. 2, but I think I come out with some certifications, like Certified Scrum Master, and some things like that. Is that true? Do I have the right understanding of that?
You will come out with the ability to take your scrum.org test, and that's something that you can sit for. And actually, we find a lot of students will kind of pool together and study together and knock that out with it in like the first month out of the boot camp, you know, for those that are really interested. Greg, do you want to talk about the scrum a little bit?
Sure, I can. Walter, I don't know if you're familiar with Scrum, but it's been more recently than 10 years ago that the Scrum's become one of the premier project development methodologies used. And we do this because we stopped doing the waterfall because things happen so fast and they changed and so on. And Scrum, being agile, allows the changes in requirements and specifications and so on. So just a lot of companies have moved to it. The other thing I wanted to mention to you about self-learning, I'm sure with all your background, you can self-learn a lot. The trouble I think that most people fall into is the pre-written materials, whether that be a book or a video or whatever. They're targeted at a certain type of audience. And even though they might do a really good job, they might go deeper in some topics than we do. But one of the things that's often missing in these technology books and videos is the integration. How do you put these two things together so they work well? And when we're talking about the capstone project, we're talking about full 3-tier, a layered, loosely coupled architecture. And honestly, I don't think I've ever seen a book or a video that goes through the whole process of how you connect the browser through your JSON asynchronous calls to your backend controller in C# or Java, which will also then interact with your SQL database and do that seamlessly, even when your browser and your server are at opposite ends of the world. It may exist, I'm just not familiar with it. And someone with your background and education would probably understand it if it existed. But that's one of the things that really gets people caught up in the self-learning, is that the authors of these self-learning, they build a profile of their ideal user. And when your knowledge varies from that ideal user, they will assume you know something, maybe you don't, and they'll say, just do this, assuming you know how to do that. And if you don't, then you get stuck and you have no one to turn to. That's why so many people get frustrated when they're trying to do self-study. For us, you know, we as instructors, we'll be watching your face all the time, and we can usually see in people's faces before they even respond that they don't get something. Right? You see it in their mind before they even ask. We can kind of look and say, no, they're not getting it. And I can give a different example or another how to correlate this. What we're talking about is more like this and this and so on. So I kind of think about the boot camp as not me teaching one big group. It is more like having 10 or 12 individual one-on-one sessions every single day. We try to teach you the way you learn best.
I'm going to pause just real quick, Walter, and you can keep throwing questions at Greg, because it sounds like you guys may even, you know, find some one-on-one time. But does anybody have any questions for Heinrich or Mike? Because I want to make sure that we can let our guests go. Are we good? Okay. Heinrich, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Mike, it was good to talk to you. Thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it as well. If you guys need to jump off, you can go ahead and jump off. Greg, if you still have some time, Walter, if you've got any additional questions, it sounds like you've got some great experience, and you know, want to make sure that if you invest in this boot camp, you're going to get everything you need out of it. So we are more than happy to stay on and continue for a little bit longer. How else can we help you out?
I think I have a good understanding. I do want to jump back to, I know we said, I guess I feel I'll have an hour for the agile. Will I guess will I have enough funds so I can just log into the test and take the test, or do I still need to put on my own funds for the actual certification for the Scrum Master? And are there any other certifications that I will have met the obligation or the burden of at the end of this course?
Denise, with the change in the maximum boot camp, the Scrum,
It's all included. Walter, all the exams, all your materials are totally included. No
Okay.
worries.
And how many exams will I technically qualify at the end of this?
That'll get you to your, it's called Scrum Master 1, level
Mhm.
1. And so you'll have the exam and the materials to pass that exam.
And will there be any, I guess, DevOps or software development testing that I
No.
can apply for?
No, there won't be any other exams that will provide for you, but we will have paid for your exam for the scrum.org exam.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah. And if you did want to pursue some other exams in other areas, you might want to do that, but we find that we want people to come out with one certification, and that seems to be a hot one that, kind of every organization is looking for that. And then depending on your specialty, you may want to, pursue like a C# certification or something, in Java, depending on what you want to do, or a database. But the scrum.org seems to be a good one to provide to everyone across the board.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we also will include a laptop for you and all your materials, so there won't be any out-of-pocket expenses.
Okay. I mean, I'm assuming the laptop I get back.
Yes, you do. Well, we've actually thought about just giving people a laptop, because that way we don't have to worry about them dropping it and everything else. But right now, you have to give it back, right?
Thank you so much for everybody staying on and spending your Saturday morning with
Yeah.
us. I really appreciate your time.
Well, I think we've got another person.
we
here.
do. We have another question.
Walter,
Yes,
thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Go ahead, ma'am. What was your question?
Hi, good
What
morning.
is your name?
Tawanda. Hi, my name is Tawanda.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. My question is, Walter asked some of the questions that I also had as well, but in regards to the breakdown with the way the boot camp works, I do need to be concerned about the financial implications of the program. So I need a little bit more understanding how that works, because 14 versus 15 is a lot, however you look at that. And some of us have been affected by COVID, and I know I have. So I want to know, coming into the program, what type of other resources are available? I'm not really looking into doing anything that has a loan, but are there any grant programs or any organizations that would support students or sponsor students through your program that you guys have connections with? And then my second question is for individuals, because I have a heavy STEM background as well. So I'm kind of into that technical space, but I haven't really divulged in IT as much. But coming from a background of having heavy STEM, specifically with healthcare, and also niching out with law enforcement, what would be your recommendation in regards to, I guess, what would be a good emphasis for me to maybe consider if I am interested in moving forward with the program?
Denise, do you want to talk about the funding?
Yeah, I can take that, and then I do have to jump off in about 3 minutes. Tawanda,
I'll take question 2 if you can take the funding.
I'll take that. So we have some amazing programs and partnerships that could 100% fund the boot camp for you. So what we need to do first is have you come in and do the assessment. There are programs, one is called Tech to Thrive, there's Apprenti, there's WIOA, but I don't want to get into all the minutia of each of those programs. The first thing to do is come in and meet with Kevin if you haven't done that already, take the mini assessment, then take the full assessment, because we want to make sure that you're going to be successful. And then we really do have a lot of programs, and there's especially an emphasis for women and minorities. So you're going to be fine. Does that help? Does that answer your question from me?
Yes.
And I'm happy to talk to you again. I will be in the office on Monday, but Kevin's your guy. He'll help you out.
Okay.
All right, everybody. I have to jump off in 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And also, besides the funding options, if you looked at it, and there are some 1-week courses, there are smaller training courses as well. If you said, I don't, I'm not sure about 13 weeks every single day, or, I'm not sure about a boot camp over 6 months. There are smaller programs that we have that is directly connected with funding that, you can pretty much jump right into. And so there's a lot of options. And so sitting down to talking with Kevin and just finding out what you're interested in and what direction you want to go in, I think is really important.
Yeah, when you look at our website and click on funding, and if you want to click on grants, you'll also see WIOA funds and different programs. That's what Dustin is talking about. But the main thing is to, come into the fold here and let us work with you on your aptitude. If you want to be a coder, there are plenty of programs to help people get the funding that they need for that program without having a loan, that are 100% funded. And then there's some that are just 100%, they're different programs. So if you want to, like Dustin saying, you want to go into data, or you want to go into like help desk or something like that, those programs are funded through the counties.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'm a learner about technology as well. I had to kind of sit out of it for a little bit due to some medical reasons, but a couple of these I've heard of, a couple of these other funding sources that you mentioned before. And I've also heard very good things about your program. So when I saw this opportunity come up, I, wanted to make sure that I, inquired about it, because I know your track record. So that's why I was interested in sitting into this program. And for me, Denise, this would be a career change, but not a change to the environment, because I was already exposed to it. I just didn't have an opportunity to kind of jump into it as much as I wanted to. I've done some mentorship in it, and I have a little coding background because, I served as a mentor as well through the program. So yeah, it has circled me again. So this means I need to really look at this and really take the time to jump right in. So funny how things come back around.
We don't take the word momentum lightly. When we do these programs on Saturday mornings, when we do them during the week in the afternoon, especially the Saturday morning, if you take one step and it's in a positive direction, like you just said, this came up and you're looking into it, keep going, keep pursuing, keep following it, schedule the time for the assessment, when we watch people just keep taking the steps forward and things end up, we can then work with them and be great advisors and a support system to get them to where they want to go. And those short little steps that we saw in the beginning end up becoming great strides down the line.